As a scholar and an educator, one of the reasons that I'm at the Colin Powell School is because I believe in public education.
City College has always been this absolutely essential source of ideas and talent and energy in New York City.
You have a group of students with an idealism about what America can offer, and at no point needing to assimilate away their own culture.
Lots of students who come to City College are the first in their families to go to college, and they come with an implicit, sometimes unconscious understanding that they are changing their family history. Simply being here is an act of leadership.
Civic and global leadership should be about creating a greater playing field, about widening opportunity, and making sure that all who deserve to be at the table get a voice there.
So what would it be like if that mission that so many of our students as individuals bring to campus becomes the mission of the Colin Powell School? What would it mean for every student to be challenged to do an internship, to study abroad, to think about professional development, to think about integrating a project in service to the community into their classes? And what would it take to take the faculty and bring them together so that they're not separate departments working in separate disciplines, but they're talking to each other about a project of preparing our students to be leaders?
Leadership entails not only brilliance, not only acumen, and not only a certain amount of talents. It's an ability to be humble and unpretentious, and there is nobody else that I can think of that fits that bill more than General Powell.
I came to City College of New York. It was probably the only place I could have gone because my parents were of limited means and it was free. And it was perhaps the turning point in my whole life. And so I went back to check in because a center had been named in my honor.
My involvement with the Colin Powell School really began with a small co-curricular program called the Colin Powell Center. The original animating vision was to take these students of great potential and devote resources and help guide them towards careers of service.
And so I went up there and sat in the president's conference room and listened to these students tell me about themselves, where they were from, what they were studying, where they wanted to go in life. When it got back around to me, I was deeply moved. They were me. They were me.
If you want to achieve an education that instills global leadership in its students, you need a place where you can get that global perspective just by speaking to the people around you.
We are diverse here, not just in the demographics of our students, but in the ideas and the experiences that our students have had.
What we hear about is our students' extraordinary commitment to their communities and to leaving the world a better place. And I can tell you where that comes from. That's because so many of our students have firsthand experience with the real-world challenges that they come here to learn about and then to go back into their community and address.
So I really want to study human rights, international human rights, and law. I actually moved here from Ecuador when I was 7. And then I started kind of considering why maybe we came from Ecuador and why couldn't we have been successful there? Like, why did we have to come here? And I just really wanted to do something that would definitely make a change all around the world.
I became the president of the Black Student Union and a founding member of the Community Engagement Coalition that focused specifically on trying to end stop and frisk. And it was only through my activism that I became motivated to do well academically.
Our students bring a very, very different perspective to school. They bring different experiences that most do not have. They face economic challenges, educational challenges, social challenges that many people in the legal profession only read about. And these are the people that we need to be studying the law, to be practicing the law, to help our country deal with the problems that we're facing now, the problems that we'll face in the future.
If you are having a conversation about policing policy in urban areas, and you're having that conversation with students who have 50% of them been stopped and frisked, maybe on the way to college, it's a different conversation. If you're having a discussion about immigration policy reform in a classroom where 80% of the students were born in a different country, it's a different conversation.
If I need to pick something specifically that defines the Colin Powell School, I think there are two concerns and two issues that are extremely important to us. That connection with the community and that connection with diversity. The Dominican Studies Institute would have not been here if it's not for the members of the communities outside who felt that there was a vacuum that needed to be filled with a knowledge that reflected a people.
Our obligation as a public university is to the communities that both inhabit our rooms and our halls, but also the communities we are built upon.
So when I do things like study the K-12 education system, I want to make sure that other academics not only read my work, but also policymakers read my work. I want to make sure that the families that send their kids to schools are affected by the things that I study and the things that I say.
How can faculty members make their knowledge more accessible to community organizations and coalitions and organizers all across the region? And there are various ways that we do this. We can help bring in the community partners to go through these workshops with the faculty members and start with developing a research question together, figuring out how they wanted to design their instruments together, all in a very mutually beneficial and equitable way.
Our Office of Engaged Scholarship has the knowledge and the power and the organizational resources to where now one of our master students is doing an internship to help maintain the quality of the mural called the Harlem Peace Wall right here.
So as a scholar, as someone who believes in public scholarship, it's about incorporating the rigor of analysis and study, but making sure that it reaches wide audiences and that it reflects the needs of those audiences.
One of the things you have to do, if you're serious about building an institution and you're thinking not 1 year or 2 years or 5 years down the road, but if you're thinking 30 years down the road, is you have to spend as much time building your apparatus as you spend building your programs. And by building an apparatus, I mean gathering people in the right positions who are thinking with you about how you develop and grow and sustain yourself.
We've thought about our alumni in terms of not just 5, 10, 25 years out. We want you, the moment you step foot off this campus on graduation, to think about coming back. We want to have the doors open for that graduate who is 1 to 5 years out and is sort of making their mark in this city and thinking about the next step. We want that person who's in their 30s and building a family to come back to campus. And we want the 40s and 50s and older generation to come back and mentor our students, because it's the only way this place grows. It's the only place like this in the city and in the world, in fact.
When I found out that General Powell had founded the Colin Powell Center, and that eventually was going to have, at some point, would have had a hall on campus and now a school, it was like, great, finally. I can say I belong to the Colin Powell School and not just a poli-sci major or a City College graduate, which is fine, but we wanted to make sure that we had something to hang our hat on.
So I think it's very important that people like myself who have had relative success in life tend to support this school, because we need this school more than ever to produce students who are going to have to compete with the world. No longer just New York, no longer just US, but the world. So those of us who have been lucky enough to have lived in that generation, which brought about enormous social, economic, political change, and who have benefited from that change, have got to basically commit ourselves in every way possible to support the students that are facing much more competitive atmosphere than when we came out of school.
Since we founded the school, time and again, I'm starting to meet students who will say, there's no better place for me in the country to be than in this classroom at this school. In 10 years, we will be a place where if you are anywhere in the country and you want to think about a new vision of leadership for this society, you will come to the Colin Powell School. In 15 or 20 years, when you walk into City Hall or the governor's office or the best law firms in the country or the best service organizations in the country, you will walk into rooms that are populated by graduates of the Colin Powell School, and that will mean something.
It's a new light in Harlem, and it's going to help make Harlem an even better place and make New York a better city and a better state.